Why take FPL advice from one expert when you can take advice from 100 of them? Welcome to FPL Mate, my name is Dan. The experts' average rank continues to improve. They have some big ideas on transfers this week as well as captaincy, so make sure you don't get left behind on the expert trends, and let's see what they're up to this week. So thank you to all of the top FPL managers who helped us out by volunteering their information, their data, their stats, their plans for Game Week 37. Big shout out to every single one of them. Let's see what they're up to this week. So to give an overview on those transfers, 66% are making one transfer this week, with 12% making two transfers instead. We do have 3% of our experts making 3 or more transfers. 2 of those actually are making 4 transfers this week, which is pretty interesting. Maybe some consideration being made to the 2% who are using their bench boost chip this week. With just 2 game weeks left to play, we are running out of time to use those chips. And we do have 17% making no transfers whatsoever this week, but 2% on a free hit this week as well. Yes, guys, there are chips being played actually this week. We've got a few triple captains as well, but we're going to talk about that when we get to the captain section of this video. But indeed, it is a week to go ahead and make some transfers with very few of our experts rolling. So make sure you are getting your plans ready to go, and hopefully you're thinking in the same way as the top managers are. But first of all, let's see if the overall player base is thinking in the same way as our experts. And certainly there is one man at the top of this list who I think the overall player base and the experts agree is a very good transfer this week. 200,000 global transfers so far at time of recording, but also some strong trends for the experts as well towards Oliver Watkins. After that though, there is maybe some disconnect between what the experts like and what the overall player base like for a transfer in Game Week 37. So this is really interesting. This is going to be an opportunity for you guys to bet against the overall player base and bet on the experts getting things right this game week. And we do see in the second place, the second most popular transfer in this week is actually Eberechi Eze in the overall player base. However, our experts are actually selling Eze. Yes, Crystal Palace are going to be playing their Premier League game just 2 days after the FA Cup final, which they are taking part in. And therefore, we're expecting a heavily rotated Crystal Palace team going into Game Week 37. So even though the overall player base will have a look at the Eze points and think, wow, he must be a great FPL pick, our experts surely disagree. After that, we see a few players like Beto, Bowen, Sharda and Rogers with some interest among our experts as well. But as far as Wood goes, there's actually 1 transfer in and 1 transfer out among our experts this week for Chris Wood. No change on Wissa, Mikalenko or Mbermo really. So really, we're going to see some slightly different players this week in the transfers in section of the video among the top managers. But for transfers out, we see one man at the top of this list for a second game week in a row, and that is Mateta. In the end, last week, not as many of our experts ended up selling Mateta as initially suspected, because a lot were waiting for Man City team news and ended up actually selling Marmoush. So Marmoush had an unexpected drop in ownership among experts in game week 36. So a few did end up keeping Mateta, but the transfers out have just been postponed for 1 more week, with 34 transfers out for Mateta in this predicted rotation risk Crystal Palace side. We're going to see Mateta's ownership absolutely slashed this week, with very few of our experts will still have Mateta in their team, and those that do keep him may end up benching him as well. But he's not the only forward being sold. Isak with 17 transfers out, his ownership is dropping, and he's no longer going to be the most popular forward in experts team in game week 37. And Marmoush continues his decline, 15 transfers out for him, his ownership again being slashed. It's not quite 50% of Marmoush owners that will be selling him, but certainly Mateta, the majority of those top managers who own Mateta will be selling him. The same cannot be said about Isak and Marmoush. Most who own these players will be keeping him into game week 37, but still a lot of transfers out there. But one player who is losing all of his ownership in game week 37 is Savinho. 6 transfers out for him out of the 6 owners from last game week. Ismail Assar also seeing a few transfers out for him. He is heavily owned right now, but those Crystal Palace players are being sold. After that, Few transfers out for Cunha, which is interesting. You're soon going to see that not only do we see transfers out for Cunha, but also transfers in for Cunha. We saw the same thing last game week, so it's like the experts cannot decide whether Cunha is a player they really want or a player actually they don't want at all. After that, few more transfers out for Salah, a couple of transfers out each week, it seems to be the case for him. De Bruyne with a couple of transfers out alongside Erling Haaland, so these Man City players that may have been picked up recently actually straight on their way back out of expert teams. And as we mentioned, the big transfer in the overall player base, Eberechi Eze, 2 transfers out for him, no transfers are out in, just 2 out. It is going to be definitely an interesting one for Eze owners. Will you guys be keeping him? Will you guys be benching him? Hopefully by the end of this video, you'll be thinking about buying some slightly different players, however. And before we have a look at the Game Week 37 buys for our experts, make sure you do drop a like on the video and do subscribe if you're new around here. This series is going to be super important for you guys to maximize your FPL rank for the rest of this season, but also next season as well. So if you want to join along and make sure you're getting all of the top expert tips for this season and next, make sure you stick around and do subscribe. So this is what we're looking at for expert transfers in, and yeah, we have a very strong trend here, an incredibly large trend. Ollie Watkins about to face Tottenham Hotspur sees 59 new transfers in. Only 7% of our experts owned him in last week, so he has gone from being a differential to actually one of the most popular picks for those top managers. He has entered into the template immediately, as we're soon going to see. So if you need a new player this week, Ollie Watkins is quite possibly the answer, and he's definitely going to be part of the captain discussion as well in this video. But we know Watkins is super popular. I think everyone is thinking the same way on that one, that Watkins is a great buy this week. But there are a few other interesting players that you could consider as well. Players that, again, weren't really owned by too many experts in Game Week 36. So Palmer and Vardy here. 2% for Palmer last week, 3% for Vardy last week, but 8 new transfers in for Palmer and 7 new transfers in for Vardy is a little bit of a difference there. Palmer, of course, playing Manchester United. We know Spurs and Manchester United have given up on the Premier League, all focus on the Europa League. So targeting the likes of not just Spurs, but also Manchester United with the likes of Palmer could be a really interesting differential going into Game Week 37. Vardy plays against Ipswich, so that could be pretty interesting for him as well. Not long left before he leaves Leicester, going into his final 2 games at the club. So a lot of people expecting big things from him indeed. After that, a few transfers in for the likes of Morgan Rogers, and Saka seems to be coming back into fashion as well. Saka playing Newcastle this week, but does face Southampton in Game Week 38. So I wonder if some of our experts are pre-preparing for Game Week 38 captaincy, which Saka will play a big part of. Rogers, just more people adding him to the team. He's already been a popular player for a while. A few more transfers in for Jared Bowen. His increase in popularity, well, continues to increase. We see a few more transfers for him each week. And after that, we have our only defender on this list, Marc Cucurella, doubling his ownership this week. He seems to be the popular defender to buy this week. Although, to be fair, guys, not really many defender transfers being made by experts this week, and even less goalkeeper. No goalkeeper transfers, just a few defender transfers, but the defender transfers seem to be based around a high upside defender such as Marc Cucurella. A couple of transfers in for Beto, Cunha, and also Sharda. Differential players, I guess, and not a crazy amount of trend to suggest you guys should buy these players, but still enough to make note of, I suppose. They're definitely on the menu, but maybe not necessarily the top popular picks for experts this week. So let's have a look at this template, and before we do, it has to be said the average Game Week 36 score was 57.4 points among experts. Let me know, guys, did you beat the experts in Game Week 36 or did you fall short? However, it has to be said, this average current rank is looking better and better, proving all of the doubters wrong. The average expert rank is now up to 85. 1,000th. That is really, really impressive. And with 2 game weeks left to go, I expect to see that increase just a little bit more, particularly if there is that big disconnect between the overall player base and the expert trends in game week 37. We could see some even bigger increases. We of course see 100% of our experts now in the top 1 million. We saw that last week as well. 52% now in the top 100k, so that is also improving week on week. And we also see 16% of our experts in the top 10k. Let's see how high this goes next week, but I'm feeling pretty optimistic. I'm feeling pretty positive that the experts that I have gathered for these videos know exactly what they're doing, because they are proving that they do. They're proving that they have a really strong rank here. So let's look at this template. No change on the goalkeepers, as we mentioned, and not really too much change in defense either. We do have some minor changes in midfield. Salah with a small drop, and Burmo and Rodgers with small increases. Saar with a small decrease, and indeed Bowen with a small increase as well. But it's in the forward position where the template has changed the most. Isak down 17%, Mateta dropping out of the template, and Wissa, no change from last week where he was the most popular pickup. But Ollie Watkins with 59 new owners is all the way up to 66% ownership. Going into game week 37, we're expecting 2/3 of top FPL managers to have Ollie Watkins in their FPL team. So with all of that said, guys, let's suggest some transfers for you guys, give you some inspiration. So if you're looking to make a combo transfer this week, maybe this might inspire you just that little bit. So we have got Mateta here. You might want to upgrade him to Watkins. However, you might not be able to afford that. And it could be Mateta, it could also be Marmoush. But if you have a forward, you want to upgrade them to Watkins, you don't know how you are going to fund it, here are some suggestions based on the expert data. So one way would be to downgrade another forward down to Vardy. So you could do something like Mateta and Marmoush to Watkins and Vardy. That works pretty well. If you have a midfielder that you're not too keen on, but you can downgrade them to Rodgers, that could also free up just that little bit of budget if you don't need too much. Savinho down to Rodgers would work, and yes, I'm going to say Eza down to Rodgers would also work. I know not many people will be happy about that one, but hey, just reporting on the data. And also, if you do want to go something a little bit more crazy, you could actually sell Salah down to someone like Palmer, and that would give you enough money to upgrade most forwards all the way up to a Watkins. So if you do need to free up a lot of budget, you want to do something different, you want to do something crazy. Salah is dropping in popularity, Palmer is increasing in popularity. Maybe this could be the way you do it. But let's have a look at the other transfers. So these are some direct transfers you could make if you just want to make one transfer this week. If you can afford to move Mateta or Marmoush directly to Watkins, that seems like a really super popular expert transfer move this week. But if you have Isak, because you can't afford to sell Mateta or Marmoush, you need to downgrade Isak to Watkins. That does work too. Plenty of experts are doing that exact transfer move. If you don't fancy Watkins, you already have him, or maybe there's just no way of affording him, maybe moving like a Mateta or a Marmoush to Vardy could also work. A Mo Salah directly to Palmer could also be an interesting move. I mean, maybe you could also consider De Bruyne to Palmer potentially there if you can afford it, or if you have enough money to make a big upgrade in midfield up to Palmer, that could work as well. Remember, after Watkins, Palmer is the second most popular expert transfer this week, and you're going to see even more why so when we get to the captain section of this video. But if you want to make a cheapy midfield transfer, someone like Saar to Rodgers could also work pretty well. But with that said, guys, we have to finally look at the captain choices for our experts for game week 37, and this is where things get interesting. So an incredible 9 different captains for game week 37 among the 100 experts. That is quite the spread, really, but there is one man who is more popular than the others. Should be said that less than half of our experts are captaining the most popular player. So, you know, this is definitely a week where you can afford to go differential, but the safe pick, the sensible choice, the popular choice for this week is Ollie Watkins. 48 of Ollie Watkins' 66 owners in Game Week 37 will indeed be captaining him. And that's a pretty large percentage as well. If you don't have Watkins, however, it's very likely you have Mbeumo in your team. And he's definitely an alternative captain up against Fulham. 20 captains for him. That is nothing to be laughed at, nothing to be sniffed at. That is a significant number and a significant trend. So Mbeumo is the second most popular captain this week among experts going into this new game week. After that, a few interesting Mo Salah shouts here. 11 captains out of the 92 owners this week against Brighton away. It's not the perfect fixture, and Liverpool certainly do seem to be on the beach. I mean, I've seen pictures of Liverpool players out on holiday already, which seems crazy with 2 game weeks to go. But hey, if you like the look of Mo Salah record-breaking season against Brighton, pushing his records up further, and that could definitely work out there as well against Brighton. But I think this one is really interesting. The 4th pick with just 9 captains is Palmer at home against Manchester United. And the reason this one is so interesting is because actually 9 out of the 10 Palmer owners will be captaining him, which suggests to me that people are either buying Palmer to captain him, or that maybe, just maybe, if you can get Palmer into your team, then maybe he is just the best captain, maybe even better than Watkins, because as a percentage, there are more Palmer, well, out of the owners, as a percentage, Palmer is more likely to be captained than Watkins for those experts. So that is just the facts there. Obviously, this is differential, and there could be maybe a trend towards those experts who want to play this game week a little bit more different. They are buying in Palmer with the vision to captain him rather than going for the slightly more template, slightly more obvious Watkins. But it's definitely interesting. Extra points for midfielders. Obviously, Palmer is a penalty taker as well. Could be pretty interesting there. But there are still yet more players being captained this week. Vardy, 4 out of his 10 owners will be captaining him against Ipswich. Final home game for Leicester. Could be pretty interesting indeed. A couple of captain shouts for Morgan Rogers if you want to take the midfield route for Aston Villa. Couple of shouts for the Man City boys, De Bruyne and Haaland. 2 captains each against Bournemouth at home. And of course, Chris Wood, just 1 captaincy for him away against West Ham. So no trend there, but he has to be included in the data. So what do you think about this, guys? Who does that make you want to captain? Are you tempted by anyone else other than Watkins, or is this telling you buy Watkins because that's what the experts are doing, and captain Watkins because that's what the experts are doing? There's some very clear trends this week, but there are also, I think, some real opportunities to try and play things a little bit differently. So I'm curious, guys, who are you thinking about captaining in Game Week 37? Are you going to go with the popular pick of Watkins, or are you seeing that 48% and saying, hey, this is an opportunity to go a bit different, bet against the template. The damage is not going to be as bad as all of those weeks in the past where we saw the likes of Salah and Haaland at 90% every week. Finally, you're going to have some more opportunities to go a bit different. What are you going to do? Of course, final note, guys, 2% of our experts using the triple captain chip this week, 1 on Watkins and 1 on Mbeumo. So make of that what you will. So there we go, guys. If you enjoyed this one, do drop a like on the video. Do subscribe if you're new around here and you want to follow along with the expert tips every single game week. Check out yesterday's video, buy, sell, keep, avoid. That is on screen now. And we'll be back tomorrow for yet another video. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you later, mates. Bye-bye.